Hi, friends. This week I am sharing some of my favorite ways to capture thoughts, sharing it with my students before we spent some time building mobile app prototypes. And I thought maybe you might want a window into some of the things that I do, and they might be something that you might want to experiment with. So I always start out with saying these are experiments that have worked well for me. I'm not everybody, so they may or may not work well for you, but maybe you'll test drive some of these. So my favorite, obviously, for anybody who has gotten to know me at any point, or if you're meeting me for the first time, mind mapping is one of my favorite things to do in the universe, and it gives me a chance to leverage radiant thinking. So I have the ability to create a mind map around a central topic. What you're looking at right now is a great visual mind map example, something that I did on the whiteboard this morning before classes started. And you start with this central topic. In this example, I've done capturing your thoughts, and all the ideas that radiate from that central topic have been captured in my mind map. So you're using radiant thinking, and it's a great way for you to be able to see the full picture. When you start to empty all these ideas in your mind out onto paper or onto a whiteboard or even on an iPad or a tablet, if you will, you can start to generate a variety of ideas that lead to other ideas, and you can keep going and you can revisit those mind maps later. But the thing that I've talked with students about is when you do this activity of creating a physical mind map, you're taking your ideas from the abstract, making them concrete. You're having a little bit of fun in there in creating visuals and using color and other techniques. And ultimately, you end up making things much more memorable. So if you're trying to learn new information or build context or study, it's a great technique for studying things. You certainly can use mind mapping. You could absolutely Google this and learn so much about mind mapping and see wonderful examples, visual examples of mind maps. It's something that I do nearly every day of my life. The second piece of capturing my thoughts I shared with students is the one that takes a little more courage, and that is recording yourself. It's amazing to me how much time and care we put into listening to others, and we're all good people, good citizens of the earth, and we want to help others, and we listen to their ideas, and we give them feedback and guidance and advice. But we rarely do that for ourselves. And so one of the things that I've experimented with often over the past several years is recording my own voice, whether I'm preparing for a presentation or a creative talk, or I'm trying to make sense of something in my mind or understand better why I'm thinking the way I'm thinking or why I feel the way I feel about the topic. I pull out my phone. There's a couple of apps that I've relied on to do this. If you're on an Apple product, if you're using iOS, there's the free voice memo app that comes with the phone, and it's as easy as pressing the record button and talking into the mic on your phone and capturing your thoughts that way. I've also started using, there's a free app from Dolby that does a remarkable job of recording the sound. It's a beautifully designed app that also has some visualizations of the audio. I definitely recommend that app, particularly since it's free and I'm a cheapskate. But I've been using that quite a bit to record some of my thoughts and ideas and play those back and listen to myself. So it's not just about recording what you're saying and thinking, but also going back and listening and evaluating it and hearing what you said, just like we listen to others. A great way to drive out some personal insight and really get a deeper understanding of what you're thinking. One of my favorite things to do is to grab my phone and record myself talking through a topic while I'm walking. So I kind of double down on getting some exercise, getting the blood flowing to my brain, doing something good for my body while doing something great for my mind and thinking things through. Highly recommend that activity. Another one is morning pages. There's a great book called The Artist's Way that maybe many are familiar with. And there's a concept in the book called morning pages. And the idea behind morning pages is that you make time, and I think it works really well, at least for me, very early in the morning when you're sort of in that dreamlike state. You've come out of slumber, you haven't quite started your day, maybe you've had one or two sips of coffee at this point. But grabbing a very basic notebook, just like ruled paper, something that you can get at Target or Walmart for, 49 cents for this little notebook journal, and trying to do a minimum of 3 consecutive pages of free writing. And it's important that this be done handwritten. I have much better success than trying to type. I spend a lot of time typing emails and texting and so forth. And I think there's something really valuable about the connection between your mind and your hands when you're actually creating and writing and making things and drawing symbols and letters and things like that. But the exercise encourages you to do 3 consecutive pages of free writing, anything that you think of. In fact, what you don't want to do is sit down with the intent to create fiction, nonfiction, any kind of narrative. You're really just trying to empty anything and everything that is in your brain. I was telling students this morning that you get into almost this trance-like state when you start practicing this enough that you can let your eyes go out of focus, and your muscle memory allows you don't have to be looking at the lined paper. You can actually just be creating the characters that you're accustomed to when you're writing from muscle memory. And you get into this like flow state where everything is just coming from your mind, going straight to the paper. And there is no concern over grammar or formatting or punctuation. You're literally just trying to empty what's in your mind out onto the paper. And it's very therapeutic. And there's a lot of really wild insight that you can drive out when you go back and look at pages. And I told students that when I'm doing it, it could kind of look like the scribblings of a mad person, because I really don't care what it looks like or if it's legible. It's going through the process of freeing up your mind and emptying your mind. And I often pair it with very ambient music or something that doesn't have lyrics or vocals, so that I'm free to relax and just listen, kind of drown out the rest of the sounds in the world. Very cool technique that you could do daily. The last piece of the puzzle, and one of my favorites, is sketchnoting. I honestly wish I had learned this when I was in elementary school or middle school and could have leveraged it in high school and college and beyond. I found out about sketchnoting much later in life, so there's still hope for me. But if you're not familiar with sketchnoting, it's a way of taking very visual notes. And visual doesn't mean you have to do all these simple drawings. Of course, I love to draw these little icons and really simple illustrations. But if you were to Google search sketch notes right now, go out on the internet and take a look at all the visual examples, there are people all over the globe that are doing sketchnoting. And I promise you, some of those folks have little to no confidence in their drawing skills, but they can write, they can scribble, they can draw these really simple cave drawings that have meaning to them. And it's much more about capturing your ideas and not making art, though I think they're very artful. This is an example of maybe a sketch note. If I had been listening to a creative talk on capturing your thoughts, this might be what I end up resulting in after taking sketch notes. But you go through the practice of trying to really simplify and distill. The thing that I told students was that you're not trying to capture everything that's being said, which is kind of how we're taught in school to take linear notes. You know, an instructor or a teacher gets up in front of the class. I had many. I use the example of one of my history teachers who had an overhead projector and literally would handwrite all the notes and then just broadcast them up on the wall. And we were supposed to write down everything that we saw, and then eventually we were quizzed or tested on that. And that never worked for me. So again, this is an experiment that may or may not work for you personally, and you may be just fine with taking linear notes. But there are others of us in the world who benefit from visually capturing ideas and are using more of our brain, bringing more of it to life and being more active with our mind and using more hemispheres within our brain, when we are listening, actively listening, drawing, moving our hands, and using color and simple imagery and visuals to explain and distill some of these ideas down. Much like mind mapping, these sketch notes end up being very memorable, and you have much greater recall. I can think of creative talks that I sat in where I remember some of the visual metaphors that I used in my sketch notes, and I could actually I have a mental picture in my mind of things that were said in that talk and things that I drew out. And so these are wonderful things that we can create and take photos of and share. It's very popular for people to share their sketch notes out on the internet. Definitely something that you should Google search, and it might open your mind up to how others take notes and capture ideas and make visual sense of things. But those are just a handful of the things, not everything that I do in my life, and I may share other techniques that I've adopted with students and ultimately you, my friends. But these are some of the things that we were talking through this week, and I hope everyone is safe and sane, and I'll catch you all later.